They say every great star eventually faces the final curtain, but when John Travolta announces he's stepping away at 71, the Hollywood roar doesn't quiet. It shudders. For half a century, he exploded onto screens in roles that defined eras. The swaggering greaser Danny Zuko, the disco king Tony Manero, the steely John Kelly hunted by killers, the high-flying Vincent Vega dancing sideways through nightclubs. Yet in a candid interview last week, Travolta revealed he's retiring from acting to focus on life's next act. No farewell tour, no Academy tribute, just a simple vow. It's time to say goodbye. Fans, industry insiders, and media outlets erupted with disbelief. Why would a legend, with projects in development and fan devotion at fever pitch, choose silence over one last curtain call? To grasp the weight of Travolta's decision, rewind to the small-town beginnings that seeded his star power. Born February 18, 1954, in Englewood, New Jersey, John Joseph Travolta grew up the ninth of 10 siblings in a tight-knit Irish-Italian household. His father, Sal, drove a forklift and DJ'd weddings on weekends. His mother, Helen, ran a dance studio from their living room. John's earliest memories weren't of movie premieres, but of bar exercises and tap shoes clattering on linoleum. At age 12, he joined his sisters for dance recitals, shimmying awkwardly in borrowed leotards. Wherever he learned steps, he absorbed something more vital. The magnetic thrill of commanding a stage, the electric intimacy of moving an audience as one. High school hallways felt confining, but Travolta defied authority. Skip ahead in classes, charm teachers into letting him perform at assemblies, and take road trips to New York City to audition for casting directors. By 17, he'd landed a role in the touring company of Grease. Scrubbing grease paint off mirrors backstage, he knew he was inches from the big leagues. In 1975, he moved to Hollywood on a wing and a prayer, crashing on friends' couches in Burbank. That same year, Saturday Night Fever exploded in cinemas, catapulting him to the heart of pop culture. His slick-back hair and squeaking white shoes became the emblem of a generation pulsing to disco. No one could have predicted then that his career would ebb and flow across decades, surviving personal tragedies, box office flops, and the fickle currents of studio politics. Yet Travolta adapted like few stars could. In the early 80s, he traded disco for crime in Urban Cowboy, then surprised critics with a soul-bearing turn in the. They say every great star eventually faces the final curtain, but when John Travolta announces he's stepping away at 71, the Hollywood roar doesn't quiet. It shudders. For half a century, he exploded onto screens in roles that defined eras. The swaggering greaser Danny Zuko, the disco king Tony Manero, the steely John Kelly hunted by killers, the high-flying Vincent Vega dancing sideways through nightclubs. Yet in a candid interview last week, Travolta revealed he's retiring from acting to focus on life's next act. No farewell tour, no Academy tribute, just a simple vow. It's time to say goodbye. Fans, industry insiders, and media outlets erupted with disbelief. Why would a legend, with projects in development and fan devotion at fever pitch, choose silence over one last curtain call? To grasp the weight of Travolta's decision, rewind to the small-town beginnings that seeded his star power. Born February 18, 1954, in Englewood, New Jersey, John Joseph Travolta grew up the ninth of 10 siblings in a tight-knit Irish-Italian household. His father, Sal, drove a forklift and DJ'd weddings on weekends. His mother, Helen, ran a dance studio from their living room. John's earliest memories weren't of movie premieres, but of bar exercises and tap shoes clattering on linoleum. At age 12, he joined his sisters for dance recitals, shimmying awkwardly in borrowed leotards. Wherever he learned steps, he absorbed something more vital. The magnetic thrill of commanding a stage, the electric intimacy of moving an audience as one. High school hallways felt confining, but Travolta defied authority. Skip ahead in classes, charm teachers into letting him perform at assemblies, and take road trips to New York City to audition for casting directors. By 17, he'd landed a role in the touring company of Grease. Scrubbing grease paint off mirrors backstage, he knew he was inches from the big leagues. In 1975, he moved to Hollywood on a wing and a prayer, crashing on friends' couches in Burbank. That same year, Saturday Night Fever exploded in cinemas, catapulting him to the heart of pop culture. His slick back hair and squeaking white shoes became the emblem of a generation pulsing to disco. No one could have predicted then that his career would ebb and flow across decades, surviving personal tragedies, box office flops, and the fickle currents of studio politics. Yet Travolta adapted like few stars could. In the early 80s, he traded disco for crime in Urban Cowboy, then surprised critics with a soul-bearing turn in the finale to an extraordinary chapter. So what happens when John Travolta, a living thread woven through pop culture's fabric, steps away? Will Hollywood find a new symbol of dance floor bravado? Can any star fill the vacuum left by a man who made disco spins, palm swivels, and slow-motion struts into a language of escape and expression? In the next section, we'll explore the details behind Travolta's decision, the personal crossroads he faced, the industry forces at play, and how his unique blend of star power and humanity may shape both his legacy and the future of the American screen. The day John Travolta announced his retirement, Hollywood's pulse skipped, but behind the headlines lay a deeper story of crossroads few stars ever navigate. At 71, he stood at the intersection of personal loss, creative fulfillment, and an industry that prizes novelty above endurance. For Travolta, whose career was defined by fearless reinvention, from Saturday Night Fever's disco glow to Pulp Fiction's cool detachment, the decision to step off camera was not born of a single moment, but of years of reflection and converging pressures. First came the private reckoning. In 2020, Kelly Preston, his wife of nearly 3 decades, lost her battle with breast cancer. Travolta, who had built his life around protecting family privacy, suddenly found himself bearing raw grief in public view. He leaned on his faith and community to process the loss, but the pain reshaped his priorities. Late at night, he would wander the halls of their Malibu home, gazing at photos of their children and recalling family dances in the living room. The roles that once brought him adrenaline gave way to the need for quiet presence. Listening to Ella Blue's college stories, cheering on Benjamin's surf competitions, and preserving Kelly's memory for his grandchildren one bedtime story at a time. Simultaneously, Travolta's physical stamina began whispering cautionary notes. Action sequences that once came naturally now required extensive training and recovery. He reminisced to friends about the days when he could film a 6-hour fight sequence and still head to a charity gala the same evening. Recently, soreness lingered for days, and minor injuries took weeks to heal. During the final months of shooting The Killer's Game, he found himself reworking choreography to reduce falls and giving up lengthy car stunts in favor of close-up dialogue. The daily fight to maintain the ageless physicality he'd once effortlessly displayed had become a hidden battle, one that both humbled him and underscored a truth he could no longer ignore. The body that had carried him across silver screens would eventually demand rest. On set, he faced an industry that, despite occasional nostalgia-driven comebacks, seldom reserves center stage for septuagenarians. Studios favored franchises led by younger actors or superhero sagas where age could be masked by costumes and CGI. Travolta's recent films, while polished, struggled to match the box office magnetism of his heyday. Even Pulp Fiction anniversary screenings, with Quentin Tarantino himself at the helm, served more as commemorations than evidence of his enduring drawing power. Though streaming licenses kept his classics in rotation, a new generation largely associated him with brief biopic cameos or cameos on talk shows. The star who once embodied cultural moments now found himself invited to retrospectives rather than headline events. Yet Travolta was hardly idle. Away from cameras, he immersed himself in aviation, another passion that offered him both freedom and perspective. Piloting his Gulfstream jet at dawn, he soared above coastlines, watching the sun peak over cloud tops. In the silence of the cockpit, he confronted his motivations. Was he chasing applause or seeking meaning? Aviation became metaphor, like flight. A career has ascent, cruising altitude, and a descent. He realized it was time to plan his own landing, to glide gently rather than crash into obsolescence. His creative compass pointed inward as well. He began mentoring emerging directors, offering script notes, and sharing lessons learned from decades of hits and misses. He consulted on acting workshops, speaking candidly about vulnerability, the importance of listening on set, and the necessity of adapting to new technologies. He drafted outlines for a memoir that would delve beyond celebrity gossip into the heartbeats of his life. Dancing lessons with his mother, a shy teen's audition in Newark, the intoxicating roar of disco crowds, and the bittersweet silence of family loss. As industry heads monitored shifting demographics and revenue models, Travolta struck a careful balance between visibility and withdrawal. He accepted invitations to select documentaries celebrating Hollywood's golden eras, lending his voice to audio tours of the Hollywood Walk of Fame. He filmed cameos paying homage to his own legacy, a brief wink in a streaming series set in the 70s, a voiceover for a biopic trailer. Yet each appearance felt like a deliberate farewell rather than a bid for relevance. Audiences saw a man who knew his time had passed from leading man to honored alumnus, and they listened with both nostalgia and respect. Contrast framed every choice. The man who once declared Greece is the word now spoke softly of returning to his New Jersey roots, craving the simple rhythms of small-town life. The boy who leapt into disco nights craved quiet mornings watching sun rays filter through avocado trees. Hollywood's glaring spotlights gave way to golden dawns in his cockpit and family dinners flavored by Kelly's scallops and parsley sauce. Each dichotomy illustrated the journey from youthful exuberance to dignified repose, a journey Travolta embraced on his own terms. Industry insiders note that Travolta's finale speaks to a broader shift. As streaming giants chase young content creators, legacy stars are reclaiming their narratives. By choosing his own retirement, Travolta asserted agency in a system that often dictates when its stars should fade. He bypassed the indignity of diminishing roles or televised farewell tours in favor of private grace. His exit plan became a model: inform fans, honor family, mentor successors, and step away before the lights grow dim. For the next generation of actors, Travolta's departure underscores a profound lesson. Sustainability in show business demands both adaptability and self-awareness. Audiences may clamor for comebacks, but true mastery lies in knowing when to bow out. The final credits may roll for one star, but the echo of a storied career, dance moves, pilots' logbooks, whispered family stories, resonates far beyond box office tallies. In our final section, we'll explore the legacy Travolta leaves behind, the performances that shaped decades, the innovations he championed in choreography and genre blending, and how his conscious retreat from the screen opens a new chapter for Hollywood itself. They say a star's final bow refracts through every part he ever inhabited, and John Travolta's legacy shines brightest where genre boundaries blur. He didn't just act, he embodied eras. When Tony Manero spun Under Disco Lights, Travolta transformed a dance floor into a battleground for identity, urging audiences to feel the music in their marrow. When Vincent Vega strode into Jack Rabbit Slims wearing devil horns and a cheap suit, he proved that cool could coexist with chaos. And when Danny Zuko swooped across Rydell High's blacktop, he taught teenagers that rebellion might come wrapped in leather and choreographed moves. These performances didn't simply entertain. They set a blueprint for cinematic alchemy, where choreography amplified storytelling and swagger became character. From Saturday Night Fever to Grease, Travolta showed how physicality could carry a narrative. Before him, male leads rarely broke into dance. After him, entire generations insisted that movies move with motion. Directors paid tribute in foot-tapping montages and pop culture homages. But Travolta's work remains unmatched. A dancer who could pivot into pain, a crooner who could pivot into conflict. In Pulp Fiction, that poised tension on the dance floor, his foot hovering over Mia Wallace's as Tarantino's needle skipped, was an echo of a lifetime's worth of practice, an amalgam of film tradition and personal flair. He gave us images that pop up in playlists and photo collages, immortal markers of style meeting substance. Yet his innovations stretched beyond tap, shoes, and polyester. Travolta was one of Hollywood's first to champion ensemble versatility. He moved freely between studios and independents, from glossy musicals to character-driven dramas, refusing to be typecast. In Look Who's Talking, he lent his voice to an animated toddler, melding comedy with charm. In Phenomenon, he wore his vulnerability openly, reminding us that supernatural plots need human hearts. By crossing genres, Travolta insisted that audiences embrace risk. Producers watched scripts with renewed ambition, dreaming of stars who could sell both romance and thriller in a single poster. Casting rooms opened wider, hoping to catch the next actor with Travolta's range. His influence also rippled through television and live performance. When network TV yielded live musicals in the 2010s, Grease, Live, and the Rocky Horror Picture Show, producers credited Travolta's stage roots for reigniting the format. His early television specials and talk show appearances foreshadowed today's streaming events, where stars leap from sets into living rooms. His 1977 Saturday Night Live hosting stint broke ground for movie actors to cameo on variety shows, shaping the modern cross-promotion model. In each medium, he planted seeds that blossomed into new forms of entertainment, sowing a legacy no single film could capture. Off-screen, Travolta's career-long passion for flight added another dimension to his legend. Co-piloting his own jets, he embodied a kind of real-life maverick, exploring horizons beyond studio lot boundaries. That love of aviation inspired airport cameos, writing for flight magazines, and even an annual gathering of actor pilots. He brought an adventurous spirit to every role, and that translated into a delightful unpredictability. No one knew whether he'd swagger across a dance floor or taxi a Gulfstream onto the runway. Each turn of a propeller became an emblem of freedom, a companion to his cinematic flights. Perhaps most enduring is the mentorship he's offered behind the scenes in recent years. Travolta has spent countless afternoons on sound stages, guiding rising actors through choreography sequences or dialing in a line's nuance. His generosity seeded careers. Performers who once watched Pulp Fiction with wide eyes now credit him with helping them find confidence on their first film set. Writers and directors sought his notes on scripts, trusting his instincts honed by decades of peaks and dips. In choosing to retire now, he passes a torch to a new constellation of talent, his final act as teacher rather than headliner. Travolta's conscious retreat sends a potent message to Hollywood. Sometimes the bravest exit cements a legacy more firmly than lingering stardom. By stepping back at the height of respect, he transforms retirement into an extension of his artistry, an act of control and grace. In doing so, he invites the industry to value endings as much as openings, urging producers and performers to consider the power of purposeful closure. His departure isn't a curtain falling, it's a spotlight shifting, illuminating the next act for both him and the generations he inspired. As the echoes of disco beats fade and the desert winds calm beneath a pilot's wings, Travolta's life in motion leaves a resonance beyond box office numbers or award trophies. He taught us to blend movement and emotion, to find humor in vulnerability, and to take flight even when grounded by circumstance. His final bow opens a new chapter, one where Hollywood learns not just how to build stars, but how to honor the artistry of departure. And so, when we revisit his greatest scenes, Grease's roller rink, the buzzing neon of Brooklyn's 2001 Odyssey, the fractured dialogue of Jules and Vincent, we'll hear more than a voice echoing lines. We'll sense the quiet courage of a man who knew exactly when to say goodbye to I. In the weeks since Travolta's announcement, a wave of organized tributes has swept through theaters, streaming platforms, and fan communities. Grease flash mobs sprung up on downtown sidewalks. Orchestras in small towns rehearsed disco-infused medleys, and drive-in cinemas sold out for back-to-back showings of Saturday Night Fever under starlit skies. Social media hashtags like #ThankYouJohn and #TravoltaForever trended worldwide as fans shared childhood memories of learning the Travolta swivel from VHS tapes and bonding with friends over crank-up Charleston steps. Street artists painted murals of Travolta's iconic poses, finger-pointing Zuko stance, pelvis-thrusting disco posture, on walls in Los Angeles, London, and Sao Paulo. Even Google's homepage doodle briefly morphed into a stylized silhouette of Travolta under a disco ball, prompting millions of searches for John Travolta best dance scenes. Studios and networks responded by curating Travolta retrospectives, weekend-long marathons featuring his most celebrated films, Grease paired with welcome mat sing-alongs, Urban Cowboy linked to country-line dance tutorials, and Pulp Fiction screened alongside panel discussions on his Oscar nomination. Streaming services promoted collections under banners like dance, drama, and departure, inviting a new generation to discover the breadth of his work. In film schools, professors added Travolta modules to syllabi, dissecting the choreography in Saturday Night Fever as a study in storytelling through movement and citing Pulp Fiction as an example of method acting's marriage to pop culture pastiche. Graduate theses emerged with titles such as Travolta's Transitions, Genre, Gender, and the Grease Archetype, and Skybound Star, Aviation as Identity in Travolta's Career. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences held an unprecedented Travolta Gala tribute, a star-studded evening where directors he'd collaborated with, Quentin Tarantino, Michael Bay, and Lee Daniels, offered live testimonials. Samuel L. Jackson spoke of their electric energy on the Pulp Fiction set. Olivia Newton-John shared how he guided her through complicated dance sequences, and Whitby singer-songwriters performed acoustic versions of disco classics as background for archival footage. The ceremony concluded with a montage of clips from Travolta's talk show guest spots, highlighting his quick wit and genuine warmth. When the lights dimmed, a hush spread through the theater before the audience rose to a standing ovation that seemed to span decades. Beyond the spotlight, Travolta's departure has prompted retrospectives on his philanthropy and personal passions as extensions of his public persona. News outlets profiled his foundation's aviation scholarship program for underprivileged youth, revealing that he had quietly funded pilot lessons and flight training grants long before retirement. Museums in Florida and Nebraska began planning exhibits titled Wings and Reels, displaying memorabilia from his cockpit, aviation maps annotated in his handwriting, alongside framed film posters. Aviation enthusiasts and cinephiles alike booked tickets to Travolta tours at aviation museums, where docents pointed out his donated aircraft models and recounted tales of his hands-on involvement in restoration projects. Screenwriters and documentarians have fast-tracked new projects exploring facets of his life previously overshadowed by his on-screen persona. A feature-length documentary called Take the Lead, not to be confused with his 2006 film, enters production, promising interviews with family members recounting stories of early dance lessons in his mother's living room and the day he landed his pilot's license. Another series entitled Echoes of Disco seeks to trace the cultural impact of Saturday Night Fever through first-hand accounts of club DJs, costume designers, and urban historians who witnessed the 1970s New York nightlife. Both projects underscore how Travolta's career serves as a prism through which we view shifting trends in dance, music, and celebrity. Even in popular culture, echoes of Travolta's legacy reverberate. Television writers slip Travolta foot-tap cameos into new series, cheekily nodding to his song and dance origins. Sitcom characters do the Travolta when awkwardly entering a room, and stand-up comedians joke about trying to master those sideways kicks in their garage mirrors. In music videos, young artists incorporate dance moves as visual homage, titling tracks with riffs on Travolta's character names. The pulse of his influence persists in the way performers blend athleticism and emotion on stage, following the blueprint he helped sketch decades ago. Perhaps most poignantly, Travisota's announcement showed current stars how to craft a graceful exit strategy. Executives on Broadway and in film now consult with retiring performers on legacy planning workshops, guidance in choosing farewell appearances, curating personal archives, and mapping life after the final bow. Veteran actors like Glenn Close and Samuel L. Jackson speak openly about visiting Travolta to learn how he negotiated respect, dignity, and privacy in his retirement. In this sense, his departure isn't only an end but a new chapter in Hollywood's evolving relationship with stardom, retirement, and the delicate artistry of knowing when to say goodbye. Even beyond the glittering tributes and gala ceremonies, John Travolta's decision to retire has sparked real-world experiences designed for fans and scholars alike. Dance academies across Europe and North America now offer annual workshops called Travolta Moves, teaching his signature swivel, the Vega dance at the Twist contest, and Monero's finger-point flourish under disco lights. Cultural historians host panel lectures on campus that pair screening rooms with mirrored dance studios, allowing students to act out scenes from Saturday Night Fever before dissecting their emotional resonance. Cruise lines have rebranded themed voyages under the banner Travolta's Disco Cruise, complete with live DJ sets, Broadway-style reviews, and runway demonstrations of 1970s fashion. Each summer, Miami Beach clubs turn orange and teal for disco nights in Travolta's honor, and local filmmakers screen cult classics on outdoor screens. Independent cinemas now host Friday night Travolta double features at bargain prices, pairing film screenings with interactive performances. Ticket sales for related events have risen 20% year over year, reflecting not only nostalgia, but an active desire to live inside Travolta's cinematic choreography. Such grassroots movements underscore how his retreat from acting has paradoxically energized communities to celebrate his work more vibrantly than any marketing campaign. Filmmakers and documentarians have also seized the opportunity to collaborate directly with Travolta's production team, commissioning behind-the-scenes anthologies that chronicle every stage of his career. Producers of the forthcoming biopic Greased Lightning have secured interviews with former stunt coordinators, makeup artists, and choreographers, assembling a richer tapestry of the man behind the roles. Concurrently, Travolta's own memoir, tentatively titled Life in Motion, is scheduled for release next year, promising to delve into untold stories from his youth, his spiritual journey, and his close encounters with some of Hollywood's most influential creative minds. Excerpts already featured in trade magazines reveal a reflective voice that balances humor and humility, offering first-hand perspectives on balancing cinematic spectacle with personal meaning. This literary extension will likely chart new territory for celebrity memoirs by focusing as much on inner conflicts as on show business triumphs. On the family front, Travolta's children have embraced new roles as curators of his archival heritage. Ella Blue announced plans for the Travolta Archives Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to preserving film reels, costumes, flight logs, and personal notebooks. Benjamin has begun producing short documentaries for streaming platforms, interviewing co-stars and historians about his father's work and its influence on generational storytelling. Together, they host annual Travolta Family Day events at community centers, where local kids learn dance moves, practice public speaking, and receive mentorship on creative careers. These outreach efforts showcase the values Travolta prioritized off-camera: generosity, community engagement, and the belief that art can inspire confidence. Through such programs, his family ensures that the Travolta name remains synonymous not only with on-screen magic, but with real-world opportunity and empowerment. In Hollywood boardrooms, Travolta's exit has also sparked a fresh dialogue on how senior actors can navigate the twilight of their careers with agency. Talent managers now draft exit blueprints for A-list clients in their 50s, outlining retirement goals, potential cameo schedules, and strategies to secure legacy roles in controlled environments. Studios have begun offering dignified send-off events modeled on Travolta's own farewell interview. Intimate filmed conversations rather than sensationalized press junkets. The emphasis has shifted from pleading for comebacks to celebrating contributions, granting icons the space to withdraw gracefully. Streaming services incorporate Where Are They Now? Capsules into original retrospectives, giving retiring performers a platform to share parting thoughts rather than fade without acknowledgement. This systemic change elevates retirement from an afterthought to a conscious rite of passage. Meanwhile, educators in film and performing arts have revised curricula to address the concept of career arcs explicitly, using Travolta's journey as a case study. Students analyze how pacing, timing of breakout roles, genre transitions, and eventual exit affects long-term sustainability in a volatile industry. Workshops ask participants to chart hypothetical career trajectories, budgeting time for reinvention and planning. Sabbaticals to avoid burnout. Performance coaches quote Travolta's mantra that every performance should leave you hungry for the next or content enough to move on. These lessons emphasize that longevity in entertainment hinges not only on talent, but on self-knowledge and strategic withdrawal. By embedding Travolta's model in academic settings, the industry primes its next generation to view retirement as an essential chapter rather than a dreaded end. As John Travolta quietly transitions to his post-acting life filled with family, flight, and community projects, his influence endures in each sector he once spearheaded. From dance academies to aviation museums, From retrospectives on cable networks to interactive live experiences, from philanthropic foundations to scholarly seminars, his voice continues to resonate. The conscious decision to retire at a high point, unscathed by rumor or decline, reinforces a narrative of artistry balanced with self-awareness. It reminds us that an exit can be as powerful as an entrance, and that stepping into silence can sometimes amplify one's legacy more profoundly than any final bow. For Travolta, saying goodbye marks not an end, but an invitation for all who follow to chart their own courses with deliberate grace. John Travolta's final bow has transformed a private farewell into a public moment of collective reflection. As fans find comfort in familiar dance moves and cinematic moments, they also absorb a deeper lesson. The art of knowing when to leave is itself an extraordinary act. Travolta chose to step away not because the stage had abandoned him, but because he recognized that the value of a legacy shines brightest when preserved in its peak. Beyond the spotlight, Travolta's private sphere has become a beacon for humility and reinvention. He retreats to his aviation hangar not merely as a pilot, but as an artist who crafts his own trajectory. Each sunrise flight, he has said, feels like a blank slate, an opportunity to explore horizons unbound by scripts or spotlights. Friends imagine him navigating cloud formations with the same curiosity he once brought to choreography, blending technical skill with a dreamer's heart. In stepping away, Travolta also invites his peers to re-examine the arc of a performer's life. He underscores that success is not measured solely by the length of an encore, but by the depth of one's creative impact. Producers and agents now watch his departure as a case study. How a star asserts agency in an industry fueled by perpetual youth. By choosing departure over decline, Travolta has set a template for graceful exit, one where dignity and intention eclipse desperation. His decision has resonated across global screens and social feeds, prompting fans to ponder the power of timing in life's chapters. Across Twitter threads and Instagram reels, countless reminiscences underscore how Travolta's characters became co-authors of our own memories, from prom night dances to basement karaoke sessions. His departure, therefore, feels deeply personal. It marks the end of an era and the beginning of a collective farewell tour in the heart. The applause may fade, but the echo of his performances will linger indefinitely in our cultural imagination. Critics and historians now debate whether Travolta's timing will reshape retirement norms in Hollywood. Will more icons opt for private retirements rather than televised goodbyes? Will studios create tailored sunset contracts that honor legacy without prolonging careers beyond their prime? The ripple effect of Travolta's choice suggests a paradigm shift, where career closures become intentional statements of artistry, not mere afterthoughts. His path invites a broader conversation about authenticity and the courage to embrace change. In the end, Travolta didn't just deliver a final performance. He choreographed his own farewell with purpose and precision. Amidst the global tributes and industry introspection, Travolta himself remains quietly engaged in projects that echo his passions. He sponsors aviation scholarships, contributes to dance scholarships for underserved youth, and consults on archival restorations of Hollywood classics. In private correspondence, he encourages up-and-coming artists to define success on their own terms, advising them to preserve both their creative spark and personal well-being. His final message resonates beyond any single film, a call to embrace transitions with open arms, trusting that every good goodbye can lead to a better hello. Just as Travolta's characters broke conventional molds, his departure challenges the notion that artists must perform until they can no longer stand. Rather than view retirement as an expiration date, it becomes a deliberate act of renewed creativity, a passing of the torch with intention. His choice resonates with anyone who has faced a defining moment of change, to relinquish the familiar stage in pursuit of fresh beginnings. And for a man whose career was built on motion, his stillness now commands profound attention. Film buffs and casual viewers alike find themselves revisiting Travolta's work through a new lens, questioning not only what he performed, but why. Scholars debate how his roles offered windows into the spirit of each era, from 1970s disco to 1990s postmodern cinema, suggesting that his on-screen evolution mirrored society's own. As commentary streams evolve from clips to critical podcasts and academic papers, Travolta's body of work becomes a living archive of cultural shifts. His exit invites us to curate these memories with fresh appreciation. In the end, John Travolta's choice to retire at 71 stands as a testament to a life in motion, an artist who danced through decades, defied boundaries, and now embraces a quiet victory. He reminds us that even stars can step back from the glare and discover the beauty of stillness. As the final credits roll on his career, we'll carry forward the lessons of rhythm, reinvention, and grace. And though the stage lights dim, his influence will continue to illuminate every path where creativity meets courage. His retirement invites us all to reflect. The greatest performances sometimes take place beyond the footlights, in echoes of shared memory and the ongoing dance of life itself.